people of Cake International. I don't know if I still have to wait for a minute. It's been a while since I've done a Facebook Live. It's been quite a while, actually. Yes. I'm going to wait for some people to arrive before I start talking, I think, because otherwise I'm just talking to myself. And I do a lot of that already, because as cake makers will know, we spend a lot of time on our own. But yes, again, hello, welcome to Mr. Baker's Cake School, which is my new cooking, baking and cake decorating academy down on the south coast in Hampshire. We opened in July, so it's been a very exciting year. And really excited to have been asked by Cake International and Bake International to do a live video here on the page. And I'm going to be doing some baking, and I'm not going to be baking cakes. So previously, of course, my involvement with Cake International has been very much based on cake. But this year, Cake International has launched a brand new sister show, Bake International. And for someone like me who very much straddles the line between baking and cake decorating, I'm really, really excited, because baking is very much kind of the majority of what I do, really. Yes, I love decorating cakes, and well, those of you who already know me will know that I love making quite elaborate, ridiculous decorated cakes. But baking is very much the bread and butter of what I do. So the fact that I now get to bring my baking to Cake International, or Bake International, is really exciting. Hi Karen, lovely to see that people are joining. So the video today is both going to be talking to you about how excited I am about Bake International, because I really, really am. Possibly more so than the team behind the show, if I'm honest. I spoke to them yesterday, and yeah, I think, again, love baking. Anyway, I'm also going to be showing you how to make my vanilla and raspberry Viennese whirls, and we've been making these in the cake school all week this week in all of our children's classes. So we do after school clubs, most days after school, obviously. And we also do home ed sessions as well for children who are home educated. And they've all been making Viennese whirls this week and absolutely loved it. Hi, Becky. But we're also going to be checking out the brand new and improved non-stick baking paper from BacoFoil. Now, just to show that I'm not, it's not all about like sponsorship and what have you, I am a habitual user of the non-stick baking paper from BacoFoil, and I absolutely love it. It is my favourite type of baking paper. I use it to line my cake tins when I'm baking cakes for decorating. I use it for everything that you would use baking paper for. So when I found out that BacoFoil had released a new and improved version, I was really excited, because how do you improve on perfection? So while we're making the recipe today, I'm going to show you the one or two niggles I maybe have about the original version of the non-stick baking paper, although again, still my favourite. And then I'm going to show you the new version, and we'll talk about what they've changed and why that's made it even better. I'm going to quickly just preface this by saying this is a working school kitchen business, so if you hear noise, it's because either my neighbours are doing something outlandish. I heard them hammering literally about 5 minutes before we started, so apologies if there's noise. The doorbell could ring, the phone could ring, who knows? But we're going to ignore all of that. We're going to make some delicious biscuits, and if you fancy having a go at them yourself, I've put a link in the video description. I'm pointing down because we point down on YouTube. It might be up on here, who knows? But head to that link, pop your email address in, and I'll send you the recipe straight over. So I'm going to move these out of the way. Other than one, because we're going to need one. And then I'm going to talk you through how to make Viennese whirls. They are so easy, like ridiculously easy. But my biggest issue with them is I find so many of the recipes online can be very, very hit and miss. For a long time, my go-to recipe was on a well-known recipe website that might rhyme with, no, I can't think of anything. BBC Good Food. Just don't tell them that I shaded their recipe. But that used to be my go-to recipe, but I found the biscuits were really, really soft. almost like they would collapse if you looked at them funny. And so I kind of potted around working on my own version of a recipe for a long time. And then this summer, while I was doing my kind of summer of food festivals, I worked with a chef who is called Thomas Leatherbarrow. I'm sure he isn't watching, but he makes Viennese Whirls as part of his kind of pastry chefness. And we were comparing notes on our recipes, and he gave me a couple of tips which I've integrated into mine, and I think it has made it absolutely perfect. So if you fancy having a go, as I say, head to the link in the video description, and if you do have a go, of course, make sure you let me know. I think we lost signal for a second there, apologies. We're going to start by putting in some room temperature softened butter into the bowl of a stand mixer, and it's really important that your butter is soft. In with that, we're going to add flour, and we're using plain flour because we don't want our Viennese Whirls to rise, of course. We want them to keep their shape. One ingredient that is really going to help with that is another type of flour, and this is corn flour. And it's actually quite a lot of corn flour compared to most recipes. So again, this is going to make all the difference. So that goes in there too. And then we're going to add in some sugar. So that goes in there as well. I can see messages popping up. Yep, sorry Kelly, we did freeze briefly there. Apologies, hopefully that won't happen too much. But yeah, we'll keep going. And then the last thing we're going to add in is some vanilla bean paste. And I'm using this gorgeous vanilla bean paste from a company called Little Pod. I've been working with them for just over a year now, and I absolutely love their products. I won't bore you with the spiel now, but if you come and see me at Bake International, I will be happy to tell you all about them and why you should all be using them. So we're going to put in a whole tablespoon of vanilla bean paste. I think we're about to run out. And then that's it. Those are all the ingredients that you need to make your Viennese Whirls. And you'll notice all we've done is throw them all into the mixer together. There's no advanced creaming or anything like that. You can literally just make them up in one go. So I'm using a stand mixer. If you have one, it's so much easier for this recipe. And we're going to start on quite a low speed first of all, just because I don't want to end up wearing all of these ingredients. Apologies, it's probably going to get a little bit loud during this next bit, but I'll do my best to be loud enough to herd over the top. So for this first bit of mixing, what I'm looking to happen is the powders, so the flour, the sugar, the corn flour, to kind of be less powdery so that they don't end up going everywhere. And then when they start to come together, I'm going to turn the mixer up to kind of a low to medium speed. If you have a K-mix, it'll be number 3. So we can do that now. And hopefully we won't have a whoosh of ingredients coming out. And then as soon as it clumps together into a kind of a solid mass like this, we're going to turn it up a little bit more. And what I'm looking for it to do now is to start getting caught on the sides again, which it's already doing. And now, leaving it on kind of a medium-high speed, so on my K-mix that's a number 5, I'm just looking for it to get a little bit lighter in colour. That's it. That's as difficult as it is to make the biscuit dough for your Viennese Whirls. Again, I can see people saying hello. I think it's on Maria and Ellen and Chris. Hello to all of you. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate many of you are probably frantically working on this weekend's cake, so I do appreciate you giving up some of your time to come and join me here. It's nothing worse than doing a live video when there's nobody watching. Okay, so this is looking really good. I'm just going to let it mix for about another minute or so just to get it nice and smooth, and then we can move on to the next part of our recipe. In advance of this, I have got my oven preheating over there, and that's at 190 degrees, which is 170 degrees fan or gas mark. I want to say 4.5. Does anyone still bake with gas? Oh, let's not pop that off. Okay, that will do. And so what you should be left with is a really smooth, pale mixture. I've got this really fun thing at the moment where I struggle to get my bowls off my mixers, that looks like this. And then what I'm going to do is just very quickly scrape off my creaming beater, just so we're not wasting any mix. And then we're done with that, so it can go straight in the sink. And then I'm going to transfer this mixture into a piping bag. Now it needs to be quite a large piping bag because we've got quite a lot of mixture. And we're also going to insert a piping tip as well, just so that we end up with a really nice pattern for our Viennese whirls. But again, if I hold this up a little bit closer, can you see it really lovely and smooth? You can see the little flecks of the vanilla seeds. They really are delicious, and it smells amazing because of that vanilla. Now, if you were a piping tip, where would you be? Over there. So one of the biggest things, one of the biggest changes about opening the baking school is that I now have so much space. I just put things down and lose them constantly. You don't want to know how long I spent looking for my phone this morning because it was in this stand ready for the video. Yeah, it's age. It happens to all of us. So I'm just snipping the tip off the piping bag, and I've got a large open star tip. So something like a Wilton 1M would be perfect. I'm just going to pop this down inside. And then all I'm going to do is scoop up my mixture and pop it straight into that bag. Let's see if I can do this without making a terrible mess on a live video. Almost there. Again, we don't want to waste any of this mixture, so I'm scraping out as much as I can. That goes in there. And then again, we can pop this out of the way. And there we go. So of course the thing that gives Viennese whirls or Viennese biscuits or Viennese fingers, whichever is your favourite way to make them, their unique kind of characteristic is the fact that they are piped and they hold that shape. So I'm going to pop this to one side for a second and we're going to prepare our baking trays ready to pipe them. And this is where we can turn our attention to our baking paper, because with a recipe like Viennese whirls or meringue kisses or anything that involves you, macaron, involves you using kind of a paper or something to pipe straight onto, you need something that is going to well, not stick, first of all. That's really important. And for the record, never use greaseproof paper for something like this because it's not non-stick. It's fine for lining your cake tins, but baking paper is better. And as I say, here in the cake school, we use the original BacoFoil non-stick baking paper because it is absolutely fantastic for making anything that you don't want to stick. However, if I show you, there is one issue that I have with it. So if I roll out enough of these two trays, see how easily it tears for the record as well. Always looks really professional when you're on stage. Hopefully you can see this tray here. So the one issue I have with this paper is that when I pop it on the tray like this and then let go, it wants to roll back up again. So previously what I've been doing is I just take some of my mixture, I pipe a blob in each corner, I stick it on. That's kind of what we do. That's like the standard thing, isn't it? But the new non-stick baking paper from BacoFoil is also non-slip. So I found this in my local supermarket. It's already out there and available to buy. And it looks very similar to the original. So if I take this one out of the box, you can see it's still brown. It still has that kind of speckly texture to it that will stop things sticking. But the difference between the old one and the new one is it now has this new non-slip technology as well. Still tears really easily. But when you roll this up, cut it in half, and pop it on your tray, it has almost like a tackiness to the bottom that holds it in place. So if you put them on the worktop next to each other, which we did yesterday to try it out, one of them you can slide around easily, one of them won't move. It literally, it's not sticky, but it feels like it is. So you can see this is perfectly in place, it's not going to move around, and it's as I say, an improvement on what I already considered perfection. So there are my 2 trays, and then all I'm going to do is take my Viennese Whirl mixture and I'm going to pipe 12 rosettes. So if you make cupcakes a lot, you'll already be very familiar with this. Don't know if you can see this too well on screen. Sorry, I don't have like a snazzy joint angle filming set up, but what I will do is see if I can do an edited version of this later that we can share, where we can kind of focus in on this. But basically, I'm going to start by piping a blob, and then I'm going to draw a circle around that blob, like that. And if I hold that up to the camera, hopefully you can see what that looks like. And then I just need to do that 11 more times. Try and keep them the same size if you can. Around about 5 to 6 centimetres is ideal. Sorry, it's gone a bit quiet. Now it's a stiffer mixture than something like a buttercream, just to warn you. So when I was doing this with the much younger children and they needed a bit more of a hand, by the time I piped out about 12 trays of these, I was really feeling it in my hand. But for one batch, you should be fine. There we go, and there are my 12 Viennese Whirl biscuits ready to go into the oven. And these need to bake for around about 15 to 17 minutes until they're just starting to turn a lovely golden colour. So I'm going to pop these in. And we'll set the alarm because I'm terrible at keeping track of the time. We'll start with 15 minutes and we'll see how they look after that. While we're waiting for them to bake, who else is really excited for Cake International this year? If you're planning on going, let me know which days you're going to be there. Are you entering the competitions? Are you taking part in any kind of the display pieces? Are there any people that you're really excited to see demonstrating? I personally am absolutely thrilled with the lineup in the Bake International Theatre. I can't believe they've got Mrs. How to Cake It herself. How has that even happened? We've all been watching her on YouTube for years and she's finally coming. Of course, my dear friend Jane from Jane's Patisserie is going to be coming for the first time as well. That's going to be absolutely amazing. And of course, some of our absolute favourite bake-off stars as well. Big fan of Chigs, big fan of Freya. They're both going to be there. Obviously me, I'm going to be on the Bake International stage as well, twice. I'm going to be there on Friday and on Sunday. And between you and I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you this, but I'm going to be showing you how to make my cheese and chive savoury scones, which are probably my personal favourite of my own recipes. I've been travelling the country with them all summer long, doing tons and tons of food festivals, showing this recipe off. And they have gone down an absolute storm with everyone. So if you do fancy learning how to make the most delicious scones I personally think you will ever taste, then make sure you swing by the Bake International Theatre on Friday or Sunday. I wish I knew the times. They're probably somewhere. And come and see me baking my scones. And not only will I show you how to make my recipe, but I'll also give you all of my scone tips as well, because I'm obsessed with scones. One might almost call me a connoisseur, and over the years I've kind of perfected my techniques to get my scones to the point that they are just... So if you fancy upping your scone game, come and watch me. Right, I'm not actually going to make you wait, by the way, for those to bake, because that would be really cruel. I mean, I don't know if I could keep you entertained for about 15 minutes of just chatting. But luckily, in true Blue Peter style, here are some that I prepared earlier. In fact, I baked them yesterday during yesterday afternoon's class, and they are also using the new non-stick, non-slip baking paper from BacoFoil. And again, if I hold them up to the camera, you should see that they lift right off that paper. They are just, it's just brilliant stuff. I mean, it seems a strange thing to be like obsessed with, but when you're baking constantly like I am, particularly with children who, let's be honest, are not always the most delicate of individuals, having products that you know you can really, really rely on, you know, it just makes life easier. So there you go. That's as easy as it was to take them off the paper. And our next job is going to be to pair them up into kind of similar sized pairs. I'm going to be honest, most of these look pretty well matched already, but I'm going to swap those two over. This one's a little bit kind of more oval, so perhaps I'll put that with that one. Let's swap those two. You can kind of be as about this as you want to, really. That would do. Okay, and then what we're going to do is turn over one of each pair. Now, I was originally going to show you how to make the fillings in this video, and then I thought the majority of people probably watching the Cake International live feed know how to make buttercream. So I've made up a batch of vanilla buttercream. If you would like to know how to make it, it is in the recipe as well. So if you head to the link in the video description, there is a link where you can go and download this recipe, and it will tell you how I make my buttercream. I can see Cake International are popping up the times for my demonstrations at Bake International, so thank you very much to them. Yeah, do come and watch me. We're going to have a great time. I made this in advance as well, so I'm just going to give it a bit of a massage to get it nice and loose again, ready to use. And then just check it's coming out nice and smoothly. And then with my buttercream, all I'm going to do on the top of these upturned biscuits is just pipe a ring around the outside. And those of you who know me in real life will know that my least favourite thing in the entire world to do on a live video is piping. So really getting out of my comfort zone for you all. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and last one, 6. And hopefully you've realised that I've made enough here that I can also do those biscuits as well, because I'm going to deliver them to one of my neighbours here at the cake school. And then in this piping bag, I've got some raspberry jam. Now I haven't put the recipe for that in the recipe pack, but if somebody would like my recipe for a very simple raspberry jam, then just ping me a message over on my own page, which is Mr. Baker's Cake School, and I'm sure I can send that to you as well. You can also email me at info@mrbakerscakes.co.uk. So with the jam, all I'm going to do is just pipe some into the centre of each of those rings, so that when you bite into your biscuit, you'll get the buttercream, the jam, and of course the delicious buttery Viennese well biscuit as well. Try not to be overly generous with the jam. You don't want it to be deeper than the buttercream, because buttercream sticks food together, whereas jam makes food slippery. Again, if you make cakes, you will know this. You have to pipe your jam so that the cakes stick together and it stops the jam leaking out. But when you get to this stage, all you need to do is grab the biscuit that you filled, grab its partner, pop it on top, and then just very gently squeeze down until the buttercream pushes to the edge. You end up with something that looks like that. Obviously, we're going to do that a few more times. And you'll notice I'm doing it in my hands, not on the baking tray, simply because if you push your hand down on the baking tray, it's going to have so much force behind it, it's going to be easier to crack and break them. Whereas if you do it between your hands, there's less resistance. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to be very polite and notice that I just shoved my thumb straight into that buttercream. And number 6. And there you are. There is my batch of delicious vanilla and raspberry Viennese Whirls. Now, again, for those of you who have just joined, if you fancy having a go at this recipe, you can head to the link in the video description where you will find a sign-up form where you can put your email address in, and I will email you the recipe straight away. If you want to check out the new and improved non-stick baking paper from BacoFoil, which looks like this, so very similar to the old one, but it's now yellow. This is already available in your local supermarkets. And again, I bought this myself from my local Sainsbury's. So do go and get something, do check it out. It's going to be absolutely amazing for biscuits, for cookies, for meringue kisses, for macaron, but also for lining your cake tins as well. Because again, it's not going to want to roll back up when you're pushing it around the sides. And again, those of you that bake cakes regularly and line your tins will know that that is an absolute headache when you're trying to fill up your tin and the paper around the sides is trying to roll back up again. So this is going to solve so many of our baking woes. And honestly, I don't know why people hadn't thought of this before. So do go to your local supermarket, grab some new non-stick baking paper from BacoFoil, give it a try. And of course, we will be using it at Bake International on the main demonstration theatre stage, because they are very kindly sponsoring us for our inaugural show. So thank you so much to BacoFoil. And thank you so much for this product, because I actually do love it. And for the record, if I didn't, I wouldn't be doing this video. Yes, so I've told you where to get the recipe. I have told you where to get the baking paper. If, of course, you haven't yet got your tickets for Cake International and Bake International, then do head to the Cake International website. They are obviously still available, and we really hope that as many of you will come and join us as possible. If you have any questions about anything that you've seen here today, then feel free to pop a comment below this video. Even if I haven't answered it during the stream, I will come back and type out some answers for you as well. Or of course, you can get in touch through my website, which is mrbakerscakeschool.co.uk, and there are various different places where you can pop in a message and ask any questions. Of course, if you would like to come to Mr. Baker's Cake School and take a class, then head to the website as well. All the information about all of our upcoming classes and baking experiences and everything are over there. It would be great to meet some of you and have you come down. But yeah, I think that is everything. Are there any last minute questions? Now I've actually stopped talking. I can see Anita is saying, where do I get the recipe from? So Anita, if you head to mrbakerscakeschool.co.uk/Viennese Whirls, or you can just click the link in the description, which is either up there or down there, because I can never keep it straight on which platform. But if you head there, there is a sign up where you can pop in your email address and I will email you the recipe immediately. So you could be making your own Viennese Whirls within minutes. We are going to taste these before I wrap things up, by the way. Any other questions from anyone? There's always that bit of a lag, isn't there? Or I just kind of stand. I might just eat a biscuit. So here we go, taste test. Excuse me. Proper crisp, proper short, not crumbly, not powdery, just chock full of butter and deliciousness. Definitely give them a try. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in this morning. I do appreciate you sharing your time with me, and hopefully I will see as many of you as possible at Cake International and Bake International at the Birmingham NEC in November. Until then, take care and happy baking.